So we'll be starting briefly. We're giving folks time to come in. I know it's a Monday evening. Oh no, Monday night.
Today's Tuesday. Oh no, today's Monday.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, today's Monday. A Monday night. So we're gonna give everybody to approximately 7:10. So we'll be back at approximately 7:10. What up, T? We're thinking of starting at 7:07, but we got quorum now. You hear it, Tanisha? All right,
Yeah, I'm here.
all right, cool. Let me just. All right, so today's agenda, we're gonna modify it as much as we can. So today, is gonna be brief. We got, three working items, which is identify a new meeting day since Monday is so difficult to have meetings. Every vacation date is on a Monday apparently. Number two is gonna be, planning out our next 6 months from January to June. And then finally, we have a presentation regarding restorative justice and some funding that came to our community and learning more about it, right? And yeah, okay, so anything else we need to add in there too? And I forgot. And I apologize, I'm getting surgery on Wednesday, so I'm drinking these pills that have me like a little like in the motion. Tanisha, like, what you talk about, T? Yeah, so what's anything else we should add, Tanisha? Good?
That we're gonna have next month, we're gonna have the Coalition for Equitable Education Funds funding to come on and do a presentation on Foundation Ed. So please let me know exactly. Yeah, let's figure out when the date's gonna be so we can schedule them. Thanks, Chair.
You have to mute one.
Tanisha's like that. You'd be like, yeah, I could multitask. So any other suggestions before we finalize the agenda? So we're looking at basically moving committee business up to community connections, just flipping that. And the three items that we're gonna briefly discuss is meeting date, meeting change. The second item would be
Next 6 months,
next 6 months.
And presentation.
restorative justice.
And then, no, that's gonna be community connection, so we're just gonna flip it. And the two items that we're gonna discuss first is committee business, so we're flipping committee business, which is 4 and 5, we're flipping them. So under committee business, we got meeting change and next 6 months. And then followed by community connections, which is a 20-minute presentation on restorative justice. And the resources coming into our community and the schools and how to potentially be one of the schools selected by Morningside to participate in the initiative. And then we open it up to our community to get a community partner feedback. And then hopefully we get we call it a night. So welcoming opening remarks. It's been a very busy few months. Starting in September, the most difficult thing has been, I feel, having a consistent meeting where besides we had great attendance when the superintendent came. The superintendent graced us with introducing himself to the district, our first meeting, and ever since that, we haven't had a Monday meeting again. So I feel like that kind of hinders our momentum as we look to engage our community. Consistency is very important when you do outreach. So that's why it's been very difficult to maintain a engaged community with the committee because it's just been Tuesday, Wednesday. Luckily for us, we haven't had a Thursday meeting, you know what I'm saying? So we got to figure out a day, and that's why I suggested a potential meeting change. Besides that, I want to congratulate our vice chair for this committee, as she is running for second vice chair of the community board. So Tanisha, look forward to seeing your leadership replicated everywhere. I don't think as committees we could endorse, but I just want to say you have proven to be a very valuable asset, not only to our team, but I feel like at the community board executive level, you would be great. And it's important in times of extreme comfort for a lot of people to keep people on their toes. So look forward to seeing where that future endeavor takes you. Besides that, I feel that we've done a great job these past few months, I can't take full credit for it, it's been, it's been a great few months, we've been able to identify great topics, great guests. And as we come to the ending of the year this fast, right? I felt like I took over a crazy committee and pardon the French in January. So it was like now it's somewhat smoother. But I look forward to having folks really step up their leadership, and I'm not interested in being chair for 100 years, as has been historically the case. So I encourage everybody to really take these positions seriously. The impact that you have is only measured by what you don't do, you know what I'm saying? So we've been able to do with a little bit that we have, we've been able to do so much this year, so much information, so much education going on. So I encourage everybody to really look at themselves and really see it's not something out of this world. So starting in January, one of the things I am proposing is the rotational chairs. So that means that if you're interested and you're very passionate about a topic, feel free to chair that meeting and do your chair due diligence, so you could see that it's going to take you a good 5, 6, 7 hours a month. This role is not as tedious as people make it seem. It's all about just maintaining a certain level of organization, follow-ups, replying to emails, which I'm not very good at. But luckily, we saw each other in the legislative breakfast, so I was able to follow up in person. But I feel like we have a lot of talent in this committee to really keep the work going, and I feel like after this year, I'm gonna be leaning on y'all to really take my spot. So that's just pretty straightforward with it. I'll still be in the committee, but I also feel like it's important to get different leadership styles in here and see what people are passionate about too, not just, I'm still gonna be vocal and be like, yo, this is what I'm going, but I feel like, we have enough good captains to really take over. So just putting that out there. So when we hit the next 6 months, it's not just about offering topics, but also saying I'm willing to chair that topic. So besides that, I want to say this is our last meeting of the year. I'm thankful for all of y'all. Getting quorum was historically difficult for this committee. We've done a great job. We've passed so many resolutions this past year that people are looking at us like, yo, another resolution from Youth and Education, which is technically the job that every single committee is supposed to be doing, because that's how, as community board, we speak to resolutions. So I appreciate you all. I look forward to building. And then we're just gonna go around and just say one positive and one area to improve that y'all feel that we could bring in the new year with. All right. I'll start to our right.
What?
Not literally, but I'll pass it on to the right.
Hi, I'm Darly Cornel. I'm new to this committee and to the board. This is actually my first meeting, so I can't say what to improve or what not. What I will say as a new member of the community board in general, that it would be great to have a little bit more clear communications in terms of when things happen and where they happen. Because people know that every community meeting happens here, that doesn't mean that new members know that.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's why I created that thread now, like where I send a reminder. So we're gonna keep a committee thread. There's gonna be a whole bunch of different subjects, but after your feedback, that's why I was like, hey, just a reminder today at 7.
Right.
You know,
That was great.
because I know sometimes there's difficulty. So in that thread, we'll be able to track everything we speak on just in one area as opposed to having it all over the place. That's why after your recommendation, that's why I did that blast.
So I appreciate being part of this committee. I feel like I've grown a lot from just taking some insights from here and I guess adapting that into my career. So I appreciate that. Maybe some area of growth would be inviting stakeholders to actually be part of this meeting. Not only in person, because I know it is difficult, but if we can make sure that like parent coordinators are sharing this email link across the board to all schools. So parents can tune in and also find out what's happening here.
Like that. So the difficulty has been consistency, right? Like for us, like it's absurd that our first meeting, our second Monday meeting after September came in December. You know, so we went from a Tuesday meeting, we had a Wednesday meeting. So I felt like that is what part of the reason why I'm like, yo, we need to figure out, we need to either change the date or we need to figure something out because what's gonna improve that is that regardless if the stakeholder gets a follow-up or not, they know that something's happening the first Monday, the second Monday, they already know to tap in to make sure that they're up to date. But since we lack that consistency right now, which we should be able to remediate that, right? Hopefully for the next 6 months, we'll see how our outreach and also I think like stakeholders is a great we need to identify what stakeholders we want here. So we could just have the office do the proper follow-up.
I have a question. Is there any role that us, the members of the committee play, for instance? Is there just based on, what is your name, I'm so sorry?
Noemi.
Noemi, just based on, kind of piggyback on what Noemi said. If one of us, our role is to reach out to, let's say, parents coordinators of the school and keep them connected, keep them informed, whether we host the meeting or not, if that link between this committee and that particular section of stakeholder, that communication is open and continue, then they can always be informed and then we can pass information, they can share with us, you know, things of interest or whatever we can follow up. But if no one takes any specific role in the committee, then the no consistency also just exacerbate anything else.
My biggest thing is like, we're volunteers, right? And there's a paid staff here. What I would say is making sure that we have a delegate that reaches out to the office, making sure that the follow-up is done. Because, and this might be my flaw as a chair, right? But all of us work, all of us come here volunteering our time, right? And while we are here to maximize and improve our community, we also have to leverage the resources that we are able to leverage to be able to do that. So I do believe in assignments for the committee members, but making sure that it's following up with the office staff, making sure that information was sent, because I also don't want to put another job responsibility on you when in reality, there's already a staff that's supposed to be doing that. So that's something that we can do. In the next 6 months, what we also prior to accepting that, we can also do committee assignments. And we'll identify them right there. Anything else, Tony?
I'm okay. That's.
Yo, T, what's up?
Yeah, I just I like that idea. So if we're all on board, I volunteer for what I already do is, I have a lot of connections with education because it's one of the top priorities that I work on in real life and always will continue to work on because I have children and grandchildren. So, I think it's more, we need to figure out what is everybody interested in education. For me, like we have different pots when it comes to education. We have to fight for teachers, we have to fight for paras, we have to fight for foundation aid, we have to fight for more money for children with special needs. So I think in thinking about different assignments for members, I would really like to play to what they're concerned about in education. So that way we have, different people doing different things, and all together, we can make a whole. And it's not such a heavy lift if it's something that you're watching for in education already. Thank you.
And T, it's your turn. So areas to improve and what has worked so far as a committee.
Oh, because I was about to say I'm fabulous. Hey, I think that's what if there's anything that, because I feel like the education committee is 100 times better than it was before it switched over to you, Chair, being the education chair. I think, that we promote leadership by the way that you lead and by the way that I lead. I would just want us to continue that. And I would just want us to all we're going to have, when we have this foundation aid formula, this is going to be a big fight. Federal funds pay for a lot of things that fund Title I schools. And let's be real, that's a lot of schools in our neighborhood, right? So I think that we have to watch that. And I think, for the new year, we have to push our state officials. I don't care if we're calling each other on the phone and we're writing resolutions every week, because we need some policies in place for our children in the education system, state and citywide, because we just don't know what's going to happen with the federal. And I think it would also be important that we have a presentation on what does it mean, that these federally funded public school programs are being threatened. I think that's very important for all of us to understand. As far as outreach, I'm everywhere. Okay. At the legislation breakfast, I told everyone, now that, our meetings are so accessible, where, I think it's really equitable that we can have, hybrid meetings for people who don't want to come out for all the things, but can really participate. So, I know we all will keep, sending out those emails and talking to people in our community to come and talk about, what's important in education and youth for them and our students as well.
Mm-hmm. And we also have a template for our flyers. So moving forward, it'll be easier for us to promote. But I think it should be done by the new year. Having a bunch of templates that we could, if we identify what the next 6 months looks like, have flyers attached to them and share.
Somebody asked a question.
Did we adopt the agenda? You said we had quorum. Did we adopt the agenda?
Not yet. Right now we're on the welcome remarks, and I'm just going around asking areas to improve and what works. And then we go into the approval of the agenda. Go ahead, Hector.
I believe a strength that is common in this committee in particular is the leadership. You at the helm has really opened my eyes to what it means to be a strong leader. You've been very persistent. When you want to get something done, you've made sure that you achieve it by using your resources that you have available, despite lack of resources. So that has definitely been a strength for our committee. In terms of an area for improvement, I would just say cross-pollination. I know when we had the chancellor here, is it chancellor, correct? We worked superintendent. We worked with the traffic and transportation committee as well. I'd like to see more of that.
Okay.
And I think that really solidifies our value add to the overall board by working with other committees.
Okay, cool.
Yes, to his point, Chair, I would just like to say, I feel like there's a couple of subjects where we could do that cross oh, excuse me, 1,000 meeting. That cross education with too, because I think that, you know, if we're talking about housing and we're talking about the city of yes, that affects a lot of our students.
Yes.
We have 1 in 8 students, Chair, that are houseless. We have over 100,000 houseless people. And I think, Chair, that we should make the connection that if you ain't got a home, it's very hard to concentrate on education, Chair. So I would like to see some quotes, you know, collaborating with the housing and human services, because I think human services and housing is a big part of education. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I know Leo tagged me again around having a meeting like in February with the DOT to measure the impact of like the crosswalks and child safety crossing the streets. Yeah, so that's something that we could look into, but we'll figure out our next 6 months. So I want to thank you all. I took notes and I'm gonna be sure
What about you, Domingo?
for me, it was like what works. I feel like we work because everybody here works. You know what I'm saying? Like if it wasn't, for instance, for Tanisha's connections, where we're able to skip the line when it comes to certain advocacy groups. Let's say Noemi's like fierce youth development and like, yo, we need the kids for this, we need the kids for that. Hector always like, yo, we got to figure out how to collaborate. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like it works because all of us work. You know what I'm saying? So now what we need to do is figure out how to work in a more consistent and take it to a whole nother level. You know what I'm trying to say? So for instance, one of the items that I was going to suggest to that point was, for instance, having standing items, like for instance, where we get the district to send somebody to provide a certain stats on class size matters. So it's like, hey, cool. Now you know there's a standing item that has a class size matter report. Where do we stand on this data? How are we looking? Are we fumbling? How is our district leading the way? So intentional strategies like that to be able to take us to the next level, to go from beyond conversations to actually looking to like more intentional ways of problem solving, but also like advocacy, efficiency, you know what I'm saying? So that's one of the suggestions I was going to give for the next 6 months, which is while we have talking items, let's talk about standing items where these individuals that claim to be with us now provide constant reports so that we can know where the data is so it doesn't catch us slipping, you know? So I think that's why we work, right? Areas to improve is just that. Like one of the things that I feel like I haven't done such a good job at is the follow-up. Like, what are we doing now? And I brought it up during the executive meeting. I want trackers. Like if we do a resolution, I want to know who read our resolution. I want to hear the feedback from our resolution. So that's an area of improvement that I felt that I want, like I lacked there, because as the chair, I should have been able to be like, yo, by the way, the DOE replied to our resolution, you know, and I feel like I haven't done a good job at that yet, you know. So I feel like areas like that to improve, like what's our follow-up? What's going to be our strategy to follow up? Do we have to send these people a resolution 100 times every single day if resources permit, you know? So being able to do that, I feel like for us is important. Being able to follow up. Another area to improve is I feel like I dropped the ball when it came to the chairs, right? Like we need to do the rotating chairs. I've been in the board for like 6-7 years already. And one of the things I promised myself, if I was a chair, I was not trying to sit in the seat for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? There's people here that have been one of I feel the demises of leadership is when like we got to have that hydro mentality. You cut one head off, 2 heads spring out. You know what I'm saying? So, well, for those who don't know that the hydra is a Greek monster that you basically, once you cut the head off, two heads pop out. So I feel like historically what's been the problem in most boards is the stagnance of leadership because they feel nobody else is ready, but they also don't give other people the opportunity. Cause I wouldn't have known how to be a chair unless I became a chair, you know? So that's one thing too, that I feel like I'm gonna be very on top of y'all about, y'all passionate about something, chair it. And then with Tanisha hopefully becoming an executive member, we also have to look at ways of engaging our executive committee to also support with certain initiatives as far as like standing, like for instance, the standing items. Tanisha could be like, yo, where's the superintendent's office? Well, you know what I'm saying? Like that follow-up from the executive is better than the committee chair sometimes, you know, because they're elected officers. So we're growing, like this committee's out here developing leadership that's already moving on to the executive level, elected officers. If she wins, because you know, then they'll start saying Domingo's out. No, then they'll be like Domingo's out here promoting Cat, ain't promoting nobody. That's my vice chair, and I'm a rock with her regardless. So I'm just letting it be known. Besides that, I feel like we've done a great job and on to approve of agenda. Noemi, seconded by Hector. Any opposition? All right, unanimous. So we have committee business, meeting change. I know Hector proposed the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. Another thing we could do as well is we could change it from 6:30 or to 7, just so y'all can understand, y'all can play with the time as well. So when we do this change, we look to do a consistent change for the whole month of next year. Well, you can for the whole month of next year, yeah. Oxymoron. For the whole year, and so the floor is open. So everybody's okay with,
I think so. I mean, I don't know if this is updated, whatever is there. If someone who is part of this committee is also on park and culture, then that overlaps. But if none of us is on that committee, then
remember, we're open to any day of the week. So it's up to you. Friday, I never suggest because Friday is like one of those winding down dates. And the last thing you want to do is be on a meeting Friday at 7. I encourage folks to be at a happy hour networking somewhere.
But the first Tuesday,
The first Tuesday.
that
business
is the
development.
business development.
you attend that?
I'm on that
She's in
one.
that committee.
Because I'm in the parks.
You're in part.
So that eliminate the first and the second.
And then the
You
third
can't do
is
the third
general.
because it's general.
Right. So
And
should
then
we
the
move to,
fourth is the holidays.
the fourth is general, that's what it says here. It doesn't say anything about the third. There is no third Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, there is no third
There is no
Tuesday.
third Tuesday, so here it is, that could be.
No, we can't have anything after the general, correct?
No, but the thing is because general would
Oh, that's
for
right,
Christmas
okay.
Eve, so there's, well, no, we can't have anything after executive. And the executive is that third Monday.
Third Monday.
Yeah, so we need to lump it up into these first 2 weeks.
So what about,
There's nothing on Thursdays, licensing on Wednesdays, which I know you're part of
Yes.
licensing, parks, so.
there is only one Tuesday, the first Thursday is the only one taken.
No, there's 3 meetings on Thursday, the first Thursday, so you have health and environment and housing and human services.
I know, but I mean, could it be the second Thursday?
Yeah, that second Thursday, there's nothing going on.
There is nothing.
How's Thursday look for you?
That won't happen.
Tanisha, Thursdays?
I don't care. I'm gonna find a way to be here. So do what y'all need to do.
What time? 6:30 or 7 or 6? Which I want.
7, I mean, sometimes, traffic and all of that. I'm just thinking about y'all.
All right. So which I want, 6:37?
Doesn't make any difference to me.
Well, all right, Tanisha. Tanisha, break the vote. What we doing to 6:30 or 7?
7.
All right. All right, can I get a motion to change the meeting days to now the second Tuesday of the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m.?
Motion.
Second.
First, second.
Darling.
Alright. So Darlie, Darlie set the motion. Noemi seconded. Any opposition? Abstentions? So it passes unanimously. So now we're looking at the January calendar, changing our meetings now to Thursdays at 7 p.m. And remember, we could always revisit this.
Yes.
So all we need to do is provide the community with 30 days notice. So as long as whatever modification we make is allowed to have a calendar day of 30 days, we should be okay.
That
Okay,
means our next meeting is January 9 at 7 p.m.
well, I have to take it to the exec
Oh,
and
okay.
see the calendar and
All right.
if we start in January or in February, so
Oh,
I will keep everybody informed, but we do need to give it 30 calendar days public notice prior to the meeting. Okay, so we got the meeting change. Next 6 months. All right, so we're looking at ideally, I like to plan January, February, because June we go on break till September. So those that first quarter right there, from January to like let's say March, April is very important. January, February, March, April, May, June. All right. So who wants to lead this? T, what's up? So I know you recommended that we do the foundation aid in January, correct?
Right. What day is that?
We will confirm after the exec. So on the
Are we possibly looking at?
we're looking at either what were the 2
ninth.
days? The 9th, which is the
Second Thursday.
the second Thursday, or the 7th, which is
May.
the 6th, right?
Which remain the first Monday.
Which remains
The first Monday.
no,
of
it's the
month.
second Monday, right?
Then it's the 13th.
Are we the
January,
First
looking at
Monday,
January.
that's the first Monday. The second Monday would be the 13th, which is already what it's on.
yeah, correct. So it would be either the 13th or that Thursday of that week.
Well, that Thursday, I won't be here, honey, because it's my birthday and I'll be in Jamaica.
Yo, I thought we were cutting a cake, dog. You bug.
We're gonna
Don't
have
worry.
something before or after, but
All right. All right. So we got foundation aid. Prior to that, so we got January. That's gonna be chaired by both. Well, I'm gonna say with a lot of pride, our future second vice chair, Tanisha will chair that.
hopefully, I don't know if people vote for me. I don't know.
I hope.
If people are ready for a change and real education, and I don't know. We'll see.
Yes. So we got foundation aid. We got foundation aid. Tanisha, how about the idea of the standing items? Should we start there? Should we give it like start in February?
Yeah, no, we're concentrating on foundation A, and then
we're-
class size, smaller class size, right?
Saying that we want a periodic data on how the district is working to implement small classes in the district.
Yeah,
So do we want to start in January or February so that we could give them notice in January about bringing in the data for February?
I think we give them notice in January. And refer to our resolution, because this is an ongoing fight, you all. Because, we're still looking for a plan. We're still looking for a plan. I think that, like we said, there's gonna be some other things that are gonna come up and that we're going to have to deal with, when we talk about the federal funding. Love somebody to come and really like maybe the Office of Budget to come and give us a presentation on what is at stake, that we could be losing for our school funds, when it comes to federal funding. And something else, when we talk about how we want to, make sure that we're making sure that we're intersecting how all of these systems, when they come together, how it can affect our children going to school. I would love for the coalition that deals with mental health, Chair.
Yeah,
Mental health, and talks about Be Heard, and all of the ways that is not working. And I, personally, I want to say that I was one of the activists that was outside fighting for Jordan Neely. The verdict came down today on Daniel Penny, and he was not guilty.
acquitted, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
acquitted. And Jordan Neely started having trouble with institutions when he was a young boy, Chair, and he watched his mother be murdered, and he was thrown into foster care. So it's very important to make these connections, because obviously he didn't get the support that he needed in school, in any of these institutions. So it's important that we lift up how this all can affect our students every day.
All right, cool. So far, what we have is January foundation aid. We're sending a notice to the district on a presentation for small classroom data for February. February, we got what is at stake. We're losing federal funding, right? So mental health, we're putting that in March. Ain't March mental health month?
No, it's May.
It's May?
May.
So do you want to do that in May, Tanisha?
Yeah, I will reach out.
All right. So Tanisha has already given us a broad scope. We need some of y'all now y'all got 3 spots to fill, and there's 3 members here. Pick a topic.
March, April, and
So you,
So March, April, and June are up for grabs.
I'll take
March.
April. I remember we wanted to have the comptrollers at both the state
Okay.
and city level to come and give a presentation on the budgets and whatnot.
Okay, controller, city and state. I could share those relationships. I got one with the city. I don't have, Tanisha might have. You have the state, right, T? Napoli.
That's
State,
right after Q1.
alright. So Hector's saying that he is facilitating the April comptroller. Just figure out a name for it, so we could figure out like something around the budget. So when we do the flyer, maybe by like February, we
Okay.
could start like figuring out a name and stuff like that. So we have March and June.
okay.
Pick one. So every month,
Are there topics for either
Yes.
of those months?
so each month, our agenda, I keep it very simple, which is approval of agenda, elected officials, community connections, which is the area that we do these reports in.
Yeah, but my point is kind of more, so is there a topic for March? Is there a topic for June that you just need one of us to take on? So we have to
You
suggest a
could choose something
topic.
you're passionate about, and we
Okay.
will connect you with the organization,
Well,
to the advocacy groups.
Because I do work, workforce development.
Oh, so
and-
yes. Pick one.
And that includes youth and how we really prepare our students to be ready for that. That is something that I would love to explore and work on.
April, March or June.
I guess June.
March gives them time to get ready for June and July if they're gonna work, just the FYI.
Yeah, that, I was thinking June because of that.
Oh,
Oh, well,
thinking
March because they can prepare for the summer youth.
Yeah.
I always want to take them beyond the summer youth, but that is a good point. So I guess that's part of it, like summer youth is not the only way, and we saw a lot of different opportunities that is not just summer youth.
Okay, so March or June?
March, just based on the preparation for the June.
So, what
Then
is,
for the push on the, of the bridge.
oh, let me get this. Hector, you said what?
Yes, sir.
I will do
Just like-
youth workforce development. Let's see what I did.
Nations here.
Chair. On one of my months, one of the earlier months, students not, suspensions teaching. So maybe put that on January. We can have two because, we gotta be mindful that right now we're basically in, legislative season for the state. Governor Hochul's executive budget will come out in the first 2 weeks of January. And then after that, advocacy starts. The state budget is supposed to be signed, sealed, and delivered on April 1st, 2025. But we know with the government, it might not be until the third week of April. But that time frame is the time that we have to advocate and to write resolutions to our state officials on things that we want in the budget. And then from
Question, T. Should April, we have comptroller, city and state, Hector is facilitating that. Should we move that to February?
yeah, I think that should be that should be sooner than
Okay, what you think?
April.
I'm fluid.
So,
So February, you wanna have
Oh.
the.
yeah, so what we're doing is now we're moving the comptroller to February. And in April, we're having a what is at stake when losing federal funding.
Okay.
All right, so that's the switch right there. And before we move on, T, I know you want to add, so in January, you also want to add, you said something about a policy around,
Either January or February, because remember, in February is the caucus. That
Oh.
is when the Black, Puerto
yes,
Rican, Asian, and Hispanic caucus is. Solutions, not suspensions, is something that we have been fighting for a long time, Chair. And we know that numbers of suspensions have risen again, with our Black and brown students at a very high rate, being suspended,
Okay.
for very small things. So that's something we want on our agenda too.
Okay, so you're saying to move that to January, you said?
As I'll try to get them on January or February.
All right, cool. So January, February. Señorita, you got June. No, I mean, what you trying to do?
I like for us to have a packed agenda. Yes, Naomi, what we gonna do with the youth? You in charge of the youth, baby. What we doing? Also, I also would like to say that Naomi, our member, is amazing, Chair, for the turkey giveaway that we did with Assemblyman Santos. Naomi brought some amazing students, and they were here for it. So would love to see them get involved and maybe just come and give a presentation on what they want from us.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
How about that? Like how they see, what can we
Yeah.
help them with? You know, a lot of times we talk at our youth and tell them what they need, but when do we ever give them the floor to ask them what they want? I think that would be a great project, and they should get extra credit for it too. Tell them to come give us a presentation.
So. And basically,
What you think, Naomi?
Sounds great.
and what that could do is
Because that's like
inform our,
graduation season as well.
and it could also inform our budget rankings for the following year. So we already have when we come back in September, we already have a bunch of items that they've already identified, which is pretty cool. All
And
right, cool.
I believe at the legislation breakfast, one student had questions about school lunch.
Yeah, yeah, I was there.
And especially since the federals fund that anyway, the federal government funds that, Chair, but the city decides and the state decides how it's be used. So they could make a lot better choices in feeding our youth, especially
you know
with,
what's-
all the harmful things that are put in American food. That's
What's
another
hilarious-
thing, Chair. You to talk about food.
Yeah, you
It's
know,
nutritional month
Yeah.
in June, so I was also thinking that.
so open youth and we add nutrition to it.
All right.
You know what's interesting too? That people always give the federal government credit for the free lunch program, but that was actually the Black Panther Party that put enough
You
pressure.
better say
on
that.
them.
The WIC
That-
program too. Don't forget the WIC program, Chair.
Yeah, so like let's keep it a buck. Everybody's like, oh yeah, Title One, this.
And not only that, December 4th made 55 years for Fred Hamilton.
Yeah,
Fred Hamilton. So.
and Mark.
Number 4, Mark
Yeah.
Clark and Fred
Yeah.
Hampton.
Yes. So we know our history in
Yeah.
this community. So when they tell us free lunch, it was why is the big question. And
Yeah.
the why was the destruction of one organization and alleviating it and justifying it to like, oh, it's stealing their
And then taking ownership of it. That's what happens a lot here in this country. The people come up with it and they take it over, turn it into something different, and then say, hey, we did this.
But there's a saying though, T, history will set you free.
They sure
Just
was.
gotta make sure you read the right one. So far we got January, we got Foundation Aid, that's gonna be led by Tanisha. We're gonna potentially have a policy on suspension presentation in that meeting. We're also sending a notice to the district with our resolution and the small classroom data request. So
That's all for January?
no, all we're doing that day is sending it. So it's like we're gonna vote on the letter that we're sending. And then we'll send it that January with a request for February for our next upcoming meeting on the status of small classes. Then then we have comptroller, city and state, just a overview of the budget. And potentially also having a policy on suspensions, like learning more about some policies. And also a presentation of
Solutions, not suspensions, Chair. Solutions, not suspension. It shouldn't be the first thing, that school administration want to do is suspend our children.
Right, cool.
We need some restorative justice practices. We need something that's going to keep our kids socially and emotionally involved while letting them, understand that whatever it was wrong.
We getting that next. Don't worry about it. We getting that one next. We got suspensions, not solutions in February, potentially, and then presentations for small classroom data. The implementation. We're not interested in knowing projections. We want to know. That's why we're putting it in as a standing. We want to know we were able to lower one classroom, and then we keep tab of it that way. We'll also invite our partners at Small Class Matters, so they could be able to support us with the accountability process of it and the advocacy. In March, we have youth workforce development, led by Darlene Darley.
Thank you.
In April, we have what is at stake when losing federal funding, which is going to be a cluster because everybody's going to be heated up with the city budget, the state budget, and then the feds is going to put a bow on top of it. So
Also, Chair, just note, the federal funds also pay for a lot of Title I funding. If we know not just New York City or New York State, 62% of our schools nationwide get federal Title I funding. 62% of our schools nationwide get IDEA funding. That's our special education funding. So these are all going to be big fights. All of the funding for SNAP comes from the federal government. Now, Chair, you know, if our babies are hungry, so all of that ties into our children being able to have the best education possible.
Perfect. And May, we have mental health. So we're gonna, we're doing like a forum, format T, or we going after, what do you think do we want to do an event on mental health where we do sort of like a resource fair, or do we want to go, cause that's something where I feel like we could take this committee to a school and host a mental health fair, or partner up with like, let's say the only high school in the district, which is George Washington High School. Do a mental health fair. Hopefully the weather's good at that time. They got a brand new, beautiful field, so just something to think about, because I also think we should be looking at ways of branching out to the community or any other school that anybody else suggests. But for me, it's like space and accessibility. And I think right now, George Washington with the renovations is probably one of the.
I mean, I think that when it comes to mental health, probably the best target in terms of audience should be high schooler, just because, I mean, middle school as well, probably something from middle school and up. And then I used to go to this conference that Dalton School put together. And the way it worked is that these students are the ones who present the topics of interest. And they do a lot of role playing sometimes when they are presenting. And I don't know if that's a good format for us, but I think that if we are doing mental health, it should not be necessarily we telling them what that looks like, or rather creating the space for what they need and what is that for them. And then for us, I think it cannot end on that day at that moment, but then it's responding to whatever we learn at that, that instance. And, during the general meeting, this person who always come and talk about the Armory Community Center and all that, I guess they have resources to help us talk, but I also think for me, come from a place that one kid in one of the private school in the Upper West Side committed suicide on a Sunday morning. So, and then how the other kids are reacting to that. What is it? How do we help kids to deal with different things? And what are the tools that we can provide them? So, and even the school understanding that, like in my son's school, it's okay to take a mental day off from school, and that have no impact on your attendance.
Mhm.
So how do we align the school to come to these places where they approve of that, and that doesn't, I think kids sometimes go to school because they're afraid that their attendance is gonna go low and whatever, but then how also not to abuse it in ways that, oh, I'm taking another mental health today or whatever it is. So I don't know, I just think that they should be center stage, all of that to say that.
So I think we're gonna get some clarity on partners we could potentially tap into if we engage in mental health activities, because I think Mark, Josh has been a good advocate. Like everywhere I see him, he's always like, there's some resources, man. Like he's been doing this for a while in this district, whether through the CEC work that he did as the president, but being able to, I think, outward facing, we could do a 7 to 8:30 event on a Thursday in any school. Like we just finished doing pantry distribution in Dubs at George Washington, and that just finished like 10 minutes ago. So I don't think it'll be a problem to engage families and students during the week. Now, Tanisha, you brought that up because I also feel like there's also another side to it, which is the scapegoating of violence against people with mental health and being justified because that person could have been aggressive and the system. Yeah, and there's no like, oh, okay, this person is now targeting people. Yeah, like the preemptive attack, when in reality, you don't really take that trauma-informed aspect of it, like, yo, this person has gone through hell and they're still like figuring out the system. They always say, oh, you always blaming the system, but it's like when you manage all the billions of dollars you do and you still can't address certain issues, who else can I blame? You know what I'm saying? Like, when I get my tax dollars taken away, it's not like, hey, Domingo, based on how you grade us, I could take your money. It's like, nah, that check is 30 to 40% less every time I see it. So if I'm a scapegoat somebody, I'm a scapegoat somebody, so that takes takes my money, you know. So I felt like making the connection that day, and I think that I don't want to speak for Tanisha, but I think that's what she was suggesting. Like, let's stop scapegoating mental health because this city doesn't know how to deal with mental health,
Well, they don't want to.
or they don't want to. Correct.
A lot of children that are having mental episodes in school, they are either horribly restrained and the police are called. Police are called before the parent is called. So yeah, it's a real big problem. And Chair, I feel like we have not dealt with the harm on our children that the pandemic caused. We aren't taking care of them in the right way, and we already know how that manifests in our adults when, as children, they are not taken care of in school.
So now we have an open forum for youth, which is going to be a little bit more open in June that Noemi's leading. In May, we have a mental health. Do we want to go forum style? Do we want to do like a community, like a day of just straight up community where we do bring in organizations like Morningside, where we bring in like a way of developing toolkits to address mental health? Because that's one thing too that I feel families usually get deprived of is in certain situations, there are strategies to de-escalate, not necessarily that you could get overnight, but connecting them to the
Restorative
resources.
justice. Restorative justice practices. We know a wonderful organization called the Circle Keepers.
Okay.
In my personal capacity, I'm a funder, y'all. And where going to different community-based organizations and seeing how they are implementing programs. And sometimes the ways to reach parents is through the children and the other way around. So I'll definitely ask them if they want to participate, because when I tell you that they are doing amazing things, and it's a very diverse group of students, we forget that a lot of our students have different things in common. Just because I'm not from the same ethnic group or from the same religion, don't mean that our parents don't get on our nerves in the same ways, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of our students are put to this pedestal where if they bring bees home, it's like the kiss of death. So I think that would be amazing. So I'll reach out. How do y'all feel about that? Does that make sense? Because
we could probably do like 4 or 5 stations and potentially work with like 4 or 5 different groups and see how we could expose our community to resources that could help them.
I think it will be very important to invite schools.
Yeah, that's why we're gonna do it in the school. So we're gonna partner up with the George Washington campus, which Noemi and myself will work on that. If there's not any other proposed sites, this could be like the first of many, where we have now a standing event every March, where as opposed to coming here and just talking to ourselves, we're actually doing stuff out in the community, like outward facing stuff. So I think we're gonna put a list together. Yo, T, what you think about George Washington? You're muted. All right, so we'll get back to that. So I think we have a pretty good set. I think the mental health, we could call it a mental health fair at a school. We could all partner up as a committee and lead that. It doesn't have to be like an actual, like what we'll do is have quorum, basic introductions, and call it a meeting. And just have the fair be our meeting. Yeah, so we'll be able to what's up, T?
that
So I was just asking, what you think about George Washington High School to host the first one?
That's fine with me because I feel like George Washington get a bad rap, and there's
Yeah.
amazing things being done there, and there's amazing kids being done there, and then we can lean on people or maybe community-based organizations for some resources. I would, dedicate for that time PSP wise, like popcorn machine and cotton candy maker. Long as somebody gonna do it,
Yeah,
we'll bring the supplies.
we'll do a pantry day, so we'll take like pantry items that day and distribute food to the community. From the org I work with, so we'll figure it out. So we have a committee project for May. So with that being said, the next 6 months is done unless anybody has any other questions or concerns or modifications. All right, committee assignments. I feel like we could figure that out in January. So we could if we could get a motion to table that for next month, I think it'll be much smoother. Right now, I feel like just expect, like, for instance, January is Foundation Day. So we'll stay in communication via email thread if any help is needed. I think that's pretty straightforward. I think Tanisha has a pretty good grasp of the org. Maybe for follow-ups on that day, we might start assigning committees, members for that. Everybody cool with that?
Emotion.
There's a motion second, Hector. Any opposition? Abstentions? Unanimous. So now we're moving on to Josh. Josh sent me a very articulate email, not only to myself, but to almost every principal in the district, right?
It wasn't me, it was Morningside.
It was Morningside, but Josh has been the one that's been talking to me about this for a while already. We take part in various different community groups, gatherings, and he's always been very adamant about making sure resources get to our kids, especially mental health resources, and putting in his working himself to get some of these resources. So today he's going to have a presentation on one of the resources he's organizing alongside Morningside. So just for some context, I work within a school, and Morningside is it's a very good organization, but very difficult to work with because of the workload they have. You're talking about they boomed from 10 schools to 200 in 2 years, so the wait list is very difficult to get them. But Josh has figured out a good way of bringing them into several schools in District 6 and one school in District 5, if I'm not mistaken. So with that being said, Josh,
Let me distribute these.
you got the podium.
Thank you.
Just enough.
Thank you.
All right, T, so it's basically a document that says constructive,
Screenshot,
huh?
send it to me.
I don't have a PDF
Take a
version.
picture and I'll send it to her.
Oh, she's gonna.
Picture, Chair.
And I think this role got me old already, man.
Chair
No,
sound like a
no,
grandpa right there. What?
no, let me sending it to you right now. Go ahead, Josh. Facts. You see, even Josh is like facts. All right, Josh.
Where do you want me to sit or stand?
Wherever you want, you can sit over here. We have some space over here, or somewhere where the camera could see you. So ideally,
So there,
oh, they could see you here too.
so where I'm sitting,
Yeah, look at you right here.
I said, thank you. Thank you for this invitation. I've been a resident of this community for almost 40 years. I have been public education advocate for close to 30 years. 20 years ago, I was the president of the District 6 Community Education Council, been involved with the campaign for fiscal equity for almost as long as it's been litigated. I've lived around the corner from Robert Jackson for almost 40 years and have been very supportive of that effort. In 2001, I remember very distinctly, it was September 9th, 2001. I was the first one to bring Leonie Hamilton, Class Size Matters, to District 6. And I remember it very distinctly because 2 days later was September 11th. So that has stood out in my mind for a long time. I've worked with Laney for many, many years. That because I need this?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Sound gravelly? In the past couple of years, my attention turned in a slightly different direction because of incidents in this community, city, state, and nation. I became very concerned about the proliferation of violence as means to settle disputes. I've known about Morningside for many, many decades and had approached the former superintendent, Manuel Ramirez, to ask whether he would be willing to bring their programs to District 6. And he said, yes, but. I said, what's the but? He said, get me the money. Because these programs generally are paid for by schools out of their own limited budgets. It can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, depending upon the extent and the duration. So I set about to do that and initiated a partnership, a formal partnership between District 6 and the Morningside Center, about which I'll tell you in a little more depth. And that partnership then submitted grant proposals, requests, and was fortunate to get $25,000 from Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa. We parlayed that into another $20,000 from the Manhattan delegation, because our district spans more than District 6, our school district, our city council district spans more than school District 6. It includes some of Sean Abreu's district in District 6 into school District 3. So we got another $20,000, and then we won the sweepstakes because the mayor's office had put out requests for proposals in which it was funding 16 grants, each of $300,000. And Morningside got one. So we have $350,000 that's been dedicated to this community, somewhat be shared with District 5. Probably 80% of it at least is for District 6 use. Now, what is that for? The Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility is their expanded name. And they are one of the premier social and emotional learning organizations in this country. They have published curricula which are used nationwide. They are currently the Department of Education's largest contractor for social and emotional learning. They work in 200 schools in New York City.
And just to be clear, that's thanks to the community school model. So once the community school model expanded, Morningside was, if not the only, I remember, because just to be completely transparent, I'm also a community school director at my 9 to 5. They were the only vendors that met the qualifications that the Department of Health wanted in order to be able to allocate those funds for social emotional learning. So that boom came after, I remember, the de Blasio Community School Initiative. And then they just went from like 10 schools to 200 schools all over the city.
I'm very pleased that Youth Education Committee is then considering how it can be involved in this. In my work for CFE, I authored numerous resolutions to the community board 20 years ago. And so one of the things I'm going to ask of you at the end is a resolution of support. But I was impressed by the agenda that you set. This is a much more assertive Youth and Education Committee meeting than I remember from years ago. And that's something to be proud about. What you have outlined in terms of an agenda for next year is very substantive. So that you're adding this to it is testament to kind of substance that you want to commit yourselves to.
Yeah.
This is a program that has two components. It's got a school-based component and a community-based component. And I'm going to speak to you about both because recruitment is taking place at this time. I have been primarily involved with the recruitment aspect of it. I'm a longtime community organizer for which I never took a nickel. Okay? I've always been a volunteer doing it, whether it was on the Community Education Council, worked for CFE, I was an unpaid organizer for them. And so I appreciate greatly what you do and the amount of commitment that it takes. The school-based component, which had very successful recruitment at the legislative breakfast, more so than we expected and perhaps more than we can handle because we were besieged by principals who want to be a part of this. Now, this is a demonstration project, it's more a pilot project for District 6. But we're hoping that in fact, this will be the first year of what becomes a renewable grant. And if schools that initially enroll in it are able to then serve as testimony to it, then others in the district may come to join it. So there will probably be 3 schools that are worked with, perhaps in elementary, middle school, and a high school. I'm not involved in the training or in the choice of the schools. That will be more the role of Daniel Coles, whose name you have also on that flyer. Okay. And his role actually is more in the community component of it. The schools component is just beginning. The grants were received in August, which was too late to actually deploy them because much of the school-based training takes place during the summer. And that's
Well,
because-
they have PDs,
Yes, and
weekly PDs that's incorporated. It's just a matter of like coordinating with the administrators to make sure there's 2 to 3 hour PDs every, depending on the school that they might defer. Like some of the schools I work with is Mondays, Tuesdays. And then where the teachers engage in professional development set forth by the administrators. So
just as you are asking your members for a sustained commitment, Morningside requires that of participants in its program as well. These are not one-shots, right? Because the perspective gained over many decades is that what Morningside is presenting is an entirely different way of conducting classrooms, and particularly conducting classroom management. It is totally in accord with the phrase that Tanisha offered earlier, solutions, not suspensions. And so what will take place in schools that participate in this program are a series of workshops, which are generally 4 to 5 hours each. And there'll be a commitment from a school for at least 3, potentially 5 of those over the period that they're working with Morningside. Okay. This is not a one-shot. Okay. One-shots can be helpful in conveying a semblance of what this program is about, to spark interest in participating. but it's only scratching the surface. Now,
One thing I will say though, Josh, as somebody who works very deep in this district, is you have to be very strategic that are the principals that are chosen for this. There's a lot of
Understand.
principals, while they're good people, it's all about the photo op, right?
This-
And
this
then
will
there's
be-
principals that go beyond and make sure that that's what, like, equity is at the root of what they do.
bear with me just a moment, please. I'll open it up to questions in just a minute, because there's a lot more that I'd like to tell you about this. But there will be a strong vetting process. Morningside knows which schools are successful participants in this program and which are less successful. And it all depends on the role of the principal. Okay, so there is that school component, but there is also a community component. And that community component will be to involve the staff of youth services organizations, community-based organizations in Northern Manhattan. And that's some of why I'm coming to you as well, in order to get your input. I'll tell you who I've reached out to already, and I would welcome additional suggestions about that. Now, Morningside does not work directly with students. Morningside works in a turnkey process with staff, who then hopefully will have absorbed enough to then engage their classrooms on it. After these professional development workshops of staff, then there is the option to have direct coaching of specific teachers in the classroom settings, so that this does not remain theoretical. And the purpose of it, as a starting point, is what's called community building, in which students learn to see one another as in a common enterprise. In many cases, students go through a whole year, they don't even know the name of the person sitting next to them, let alone anything about them, let alone that they have so much in common despite whatever differences they are. So that's a foundation that it cannot be leaped over. This is a slow and methodical process, and when done substantively, it has been very successful, whether it is in terms of lowering suspensions, but also research has shown that it has raised academic improvement. That those students who have gone through these kinds of programs, where they are involved in community building and a restorative justice process, actually have performed better than schools which have not. So I'm going to come to you for suggestions about the community-based organizations that we might be able to recruit as well. Now, Tanisha also mentioned an organization called Circle Keepers. I've been working with them for the past year. Martin Urbach is an amazing restorative justice practitioner. They work in a different way. They work directly with students. I've been involved in some of their programs and astonished at how articulate those students are and how insightful they are. I certainly would encourage you to invite them. This is not a competition with Morningside, because they work in different arenas, but towards the same goals. So let me see what else I wanted to talk about. I mentioned that this is a pilot project which we hope will be sustained. In looking forward, I have sought the endorsement of our community representatives, of which I include you and the CEC. I was asked by the CEC president, to whom we meaning Morningside has already made a presentation. I was asked to draft a resolution for the CEC to formally endorse the partnership with Morningside. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, because when we approach our legislators in the next fiscal year, right, and ask for additional funding, we will do it not only with having established a formal partnership with the District 6 School Administration, but with the endorsement of the CEC, and hopefully your endorsement, which will then lead to an endorsement of the community board as a whole.
Mhm.
So I'm open to any questions that you may have.
I'll start off by asking one, sorry. I'm just sitting there about a meeting tomorrow. I would love to meet, Morningside, like have a round table with whatever committee members could make it, go a little further in depth as far as the content, and the timeline. So like that, we could know, one, what we're endorsing and what type of content as well. So, while I know you do phenomenal work, Josh, I feel like it'd be, a bad precedent for us to create, by not engaging the stakeholders on what type of content, timelines, and a little bit more information as far as program rollout. What are some of the criterias for, school selection? What do we mean, like, let's say the funding ends, what type of, systems are put in place to not just leave these kids hanging after you expose them to so much, well, expose the staff to so much and there's no necessary follow-up, because I feel like that's what happens a lot in the DOE. A lot of great initiatives die out because there's ways of schools, if it makes sense, becoming a stakeholder in the funding process as well. So, exploring a lot of different avenues as far as like, how do we maintain these programs, even more, maybe a little downscale, but there's some sort of continuity regardless of these people want to bite or not, you know? So, these are just some of the little questions I have. I'll open it up to the floor, but I don't want to create a precedent. And we could do that before the exec meeting, which is what, next week already, right? Or we could meet, how urgent would you need the resolution for?
No, it's not urgent.
Okay, so,
This is a process. I
Yeah.
wouldn't come to you
okay.
now. I didn't draft a resolution for
Oh,
you.
no, because everybody does that, by the way. Everybody's like, yeah, I need it by next month. And I'm like, God dang
And
it.
it's- In order for this to be a resolution that thought has been put to,
Yeah,
you need all of the information that you've asked for.
yeah,
And not only in terms of an endorsement, but in fact, this process, which is essentially called circle keeping,
Mhm.
hence the name of the organization, is something that we are going to invite the CEC and perhaps the Youth and Education Committee as well to engage in itself.
yeah.
Right?
There's different directions, so that's something I would love to entertain. But for now, I think like what's at hand for us right now is just making sure that some of the questions that I proposed are answered, and then we see how we do our step, which is our resolution, and then we look into potential partnerships further down the line. This might be it, this might not be it, but I feel like restorative justice is something that every school deserves and every staff needs to be exposed to it. And I'm talking too much, so yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. So just to verify the clarity, the current funding level is $245,000 available, right? With,
It's actually close to 350,000.
okay, well, that's close.
Yeah.
And is that funding source for one fiscal year, one school
Yes,
year,
well, it is for a fiscal year.
fiscal year? Okay,
That may enable work through the summer. The grant officially wasn't signed until late August, early September. And so knowing particularly how schools work, staff time has already been allocated.
right,
So many schools participate during the summer.
right,
So I can envision the recruiting process going through the next few months, the preparation, and then in the particular schools, you know, some of that will happen during the school year, some of it may not. With the community-based organizations, that's happening already, okay? On Wednesday, there will be the second session with a group from East Harlem. That is the staff of a special education school in East Harlem. As I said, this is somewhat overlapping. Congressman Espaillat had given $1 million to District 5, and Morningside was working with District 5 in the past year, and this will be somewhat of a shared entity. That's why we'll work with one school in District 5. But in terms of the community-based organizations, I have reached out already to Cloth, ACTP, Dave Crenshaw's The Dreamers, Fresh Youth Initiatives. Tomorrow, I'm having a conversation with the leader of the Uptown Youth Collective. So these are all organizations which have expressed interest. If you can suggest any others, my role in this is not as one of the trainers. Trainers are people, most of them have been longtime classroom teachers, and they will be the ones who directly engage. But in terms of the outreach, if you can provide suggestions to any other organizations that you think would be valuable, I would reach out to them.
I have a few more questions. I wanted to get out of here soon. So you mentioned the training between, if I hear correctly, between 3 to 6 hours. Is that in monthly, weekly, how long actually the training in terms of numbers? If there is any detail that we can get about that, and then I'm just gonna bump all my questions. We talk about the school selection, we talk about the principal, so it would be great to hear, at least for me, because I'm completely new to all of this. If there is any selection criteria for the school, how what made them be considered. And then the last question on all of that is we talk about the funding level for the fiscal year, which I guess it's involved this year and part of I don't know what fiscal year we're talking about because everybody.
24, 25.
24, 25. So thank you. So then how sustainability looks like after July 1st, 2025.
That's always an issue. Okay? Unfortunately, particularly with the cutbacks that are occurring, as you heard on the federal level, nothing is guaranteed. And as Domingo said, sometimes these programs wither on the vine, to use a metaphor. It's tragic, especially when they have planted a seed. This program will be of no cost to schools because it is funded. There are principals throughout the city who have decided that this is important enough for them to allocate their own portion of their own budget to. And that may be the result of, for those schools which go through this year's program that is funded by the grants that we got. Whether there will be additional grants, there's no way to know. However, I have seen one very quick story. One of Morningside's premier early successes was in PS24 in Sunset Park in Brooklyn. Sunset Park, if any of you know about it, it's primarily a Latino community. And they've been working in that school for decades. When it first started, they trained a group of students of 5th and 6th graders to become what are called peer mediators. Peer mediators then are role models for younger students and help to resolve disputes of younger students. Shoving on the classroom or taking of someone's hat, and they will bring these students together to help talk it out. When that first cohort of elementary school students graduated, they went to the middle school across the street. There was chaos in that school. Those students themselves took it upon themselves to meet with the principal and say, hey, do you know anything about peer mediation? I said, no. They said, well, this is how it works. And they were able to, as students, inspire that middle school to begin working with Morningside, to establish then lasting programs in that middle school. This is the power of these programs, what it does for young people. Hopefully it can continue. That's up to all of us to keep the pressure on in order to make sure that whoever is the next mayor reauthorizes the allocation of I think there was $3.5 million from the mayor's office this year for these programs, which is, a pittance compared to the Department of Education budget. But it provides a basis. Did I answer your question?
The last one, yes, there were two more that you didn't answer.
Please.
All right.
I think he's fully done.
Yeah, Tanisha, anybody else has questions here? Like, you got questions?
Yeah, I got some things. So thank you so much for the presentation. So I'm a hard critic, but I'm fair. So I want to say, is there a way that we can come and observe how the teachers, what the teachers are learning? And I had a daughter. I my daughter is 30 years old, and she went to school in Washington Heights. And I can tell you it was a very horrible experience because she was one of the only little Black girls in her class. And much hasn't changed. So I'm very curious because it's funny that I know the circle keepers, but I don't know y'all. I've never heard of you before at all. And I see that y'all in high demand and things of that nature, but it's just real, it's a thought for me of like, why haven't I heard of them when I work with people that are close to doing this work? So one, is there a way that we could come observe? And two, yeah, well, it's much more of an observation. I know the circle keepers, I just seen them the other day. We're actually doing an event with them next Saturday, and I'm not aware of y'all. And third, you said who do the training?
Morningside staff, who many of whom are longtime classroom teachers. It is provided fully bilingually. It is a multiracial staff, so they reflect the student body of this school, of New York City schools. In terms of your question as to whether you can observe them, that will probably be a decision for a principal of a school, whether or not they will allow non-school staff to it. My guess is probably not. However, in order to observe this, I would invite your participation in the process itself. That's why I said we are hoping to get a circle process together for the CEC and perhaps for the Youth and Education Committee itself. So it wouldn't be a matter of observing, because this is not a process of observation. This is an experiential process of participation. And it is not theoretical. It is something that you start to feel in your bones about how this works. And if in a few months, you feel that this is something that you would want to participate in, then what I can suggest is that in terms of the community component, which Daniel Coles is responsible for, that we convene the gathering of both the CEC and the Youth and Education Committee, so that you can experience what this is all about directly.
Yeah. So I think a common ground again would be like us figuring out some meeting time if they're looking for some sort of, not only the committee, but the board. I would pass it along to the chair. And then, that's something that y'all could take out from the executive committee, Tanisha, if elected. Again, it's great. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but there's just some open-ended questions that I have in regards to implementation, contingency plans, on how to make this not be a one-hit wonder, and seeing like how intentional we are to address the need and figuring out creative ways of getting the funding. So for me, as the chair of the committee, I think those are the two most important, like, underlying questions that I have to even consider any potential co-sponsorship or anything.
Understood.
As well
All of
as,
them are valid.
yeah, as well as what every other member of the committee said.
Let me add the last word. Essential to this program for Morningside for many years has been equity.
Mhm.
Okay. My first direct exposure to this process was in a 3-day workshop before the pandemic on race and education. Okay. And it was addressed specifically to those divisions pertaining to race, class, language, ethnicity. So, but that was far along in the process. Those conflicts are deep-seated and they're not very comfortable for many people to participate in. And so that's where these community building circles take place first. Because people have to feel safe in order to expose themselves with others who are strangers. And in a sense, each of you, even though you sit on the committee, are strangers to one another. And that's why Community Board 12 was in chaos for so many years, because they had not engaged in these kinds of processes, which are community building processes. My goal would have been to have the whole executive committee involved in one of these circles.
Well, it'll be, because that's something that, even in the modified bylaws was spoken about, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of potential, and I've heard of the marvelous works that Morningside has done. It was a wild expansion. Like, I'm talking about, they went from like 12 schools to 200 schools in less than 3 years. Like, for a business to go, like, when you talk about capacity, that's what the type of expansions that destroys organizations. And they're still there. So there's something, I think, and to Tanisha's point as well, the only reason I was exposed to it was because I'm a community school director, and the easiest way to use the mental health fund, and I'm just keeping it real, was to go with Morningside because they already had all the checks. They already had everything checked out. So you didn't have to necessarily get 230 vetted to use those funds because they were already vetted. So they were the suggested vendor, which a lot of organizations in the city have people they lean toward. So I didn't see the expansion being so wild because you're basically being told by everybody, hey, these are the people to go with, so. But then I was exposed to their work because if I'm not mistaken, they're in Harlem, right?
They are involved.
And I think I went to like a PD, and it was very, all the BS was left outside, it was boom and it was straight to it. So again, though, and I think Tanisha has a valid point. I can't say beyond that initial pitch, right? Which I would consider that because we were just invited for that, just one session. I don't think is also enough for me to be able to,
Fair enough.
so I think we have some follow-ups, and I think we could potentially develop an ecosystem to be able to combat violence in our community if we all sit down and figure out how we can keep it going beyond just when we're funded.
If you'd be willing to add an item to your January agenda, I will ask Daniel Coles if he will come and address you in more
Okay.
depth about the content of this program.
Is that possible if that happened, to have something in writing that somehow describe the program in more details in terms of the components and what it is and.
There was a flyer that was handed out at the legislative breakfast, which was more substantive.
So they could bring it. And
Yeah, well, we can email it to you.
All right, that's perfect.
So that you have some sense.
All right, so thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you again for inviting me.
And thank you for being a fierce advocate in our community, and look forward to see what comes out of it.
And joining a group of fierce advocates.
Oh, trust me, we had our mouthpieces on, you haven't come out yet. So, what we got next? We have the community now, so if there's anything, anybody else would like to add, any groups being represented here that would like to share anything? If none,
I got something.
okay, go ahead.
My
Name, organization,
name is Tisha Hauser.
and what you want.
I don't want nothing. No, I'm just really here. I'm part of Black, Latina, Asian. Let me get it together. Black, Latino, Asian Collective Collaborative. And we're focusing this year on mental health. So I really don't want anything. I'm just sitting here observing because this is my first time in the advocacy setting. As far as, because we just had our people assembly where the parents came in and we asked questions about what mental health meant to them and their children. So we had, and then we broke up into groups, and one of the questions was, if you would have had a safe space as a child, what questions would you would ask? And that led, because we're gonna be going up to Albany. Might be March, I might not be saying it right, but I know we're going up to Albany to put our own legislation forward on mental health. And the point I want is because one, I'm a mother of 5. First one is 24, last one is 5. But my 5-year-old is my only special needs. Partly verbal, just getting into, well, he went to preschool, but now he goes to WIN, Washington Heights,
Yeah.
and Wood Music Charter School. I've been with them since the beginning. My first son has been there since kindergarten, he's now in 7th grade. So he's on, like I said, he's only a special needs child, so we just started with an IEP and doing all of that when he turned 3 into 4. So the thing that, what I'm big on is making these legislators and people understand that these pandemic babies that's coming into the school system now, they're different. And we're gonna have to revamp everything that we have ever known about the education system for them, because now they're becoming the majority. You know, and so that's where I'm coming, because I'm on the general side and on the special needs side. So I get to get it from both, you know, and it's just some things that even dealing with him as far as services that he's not receiving. And it's just like, wait, but it's on his IEP. So even having to do that fight, knowing I know what is supposed to be happening and what's not supposed to be happening. So putting all these skills together for my own child, and not just my child, but the children behind him, because it's never just for my child. That's my whole thing. It's never just for him, because me and my husband has the resources, but what about the people that don't? So I'm always fighting for the people behind him and making people just understand that autism is a spectrum. You know, it's a big umbrella, and special needs is a big umbrella. And just because it's not autism doesn't mean your child is not special need or doesn't just need something. Like, I like what you were saying with what you're doing, because there are many ways to get to a resolution, you know, and it doesn't have to be cops being called, like, you know, it's certain things with them, with these 4 and 5-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds, that they're gonna change it. And I know they're gonna change it because we are their parents. I just turned 41. We are now the parents that are advocating for them and advocating for my 17-year-old that's a senior in high school, Stephen T. Mathis, to my 12-year-old that's a 7th grade, my 8-year-old that's a 3rd grader. So we have them all in my household. So the fight is from the oldest to the youngest, and being around in this setting with like-minded people like you guys is amazing, because all different backgrounds, but the fight with the youth is still the same because it starts with them. And my motto for middle schoolers to high schoolers is, if you lose them in middle school, they won't graduate high school. So the problem now is not even a problem. One of the work is keeping them engaged, but also keeping them heard, because kids that are heard can be amazing. They just want to be heard. They just literally want people to understand what they're going through, because when my oldest was in high school, it's the same thing as my second, who's 17. They went through the same exact thing, because that's their world. You can't tell from 14 to 17, 18 that that's not their world. And it's not important that their best friend going through whatever it is that they're going through doesn't affect them, because it does. And in middle school, of that first boyfriend, that first girlfriend, of making them understand hygiene and these things that, yes, their parents is supposed to do. That's definitely what we're supposed to do, but having the backup at school makes it even more better. So I am so thankful that we are doing it, because we're doing it different from the ones before us. Like you said, it matters of not sitting in the same place for 30 years. Because him sitting next to you can have better ideas than you have. Not that you don't have brilliant ideas, but him being younger, he's seeing it from that age group of, so if you're sitting there not trying to learn from him, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We just gonna keep doing the same mistakes all over again. And what we have learned growing up, I don't know about nobody else, but growing up in the 90s and the 2000s in Brooklyn, New York to Harlem, New York, we survived it. And we made sure that our kids understood that they can have boundaries. Their voices will be heard. And especially with my nonverbal child. Like, baby, I will blow it down. With no problem, but in a way of not violently, because I believe in emails. And I've learned how to write very good, disrespectful, respectful emails. You know, and just being in this setting is amazing. And you guys are doing the work. We are all doing the work. But we, like you said, community and consistency. You know, because a meeting like this, I always feel like this should be packed out the door. Because everything that you guys are saying is very important, especially with the climate that we're in now and we're moving into in 2025. If we don't have the individuals like us on the battlefield, we don't move it.
You know, unfortunately, not everybody has that privilege, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause
No, and this is why we're their voices.
yeah, like I always pride myself on, my mom's was a factory worker, my
Yes.
pops was a cab driver.
Yes.
And they sacrificed
So much,
all their aspirations to have me sit here being able to talk
this
this
is
way.
what I'm saying.
You know, so, and back to the point of like the older generation, well, I appreciate them.
Oh.
They've been talking about kids for years,
Yes.
right? And it's like, but now the kids are actually not little kids, they're not teenagers, they're grown-ass men and
This is
women already.
adult, yeah, we
You know,
adulting.
so I feel like we could also speak for ourselves,
Oh,
and that's why I completely agree with you. Even 10 years is a lot, even 5 years
Yeah.
sometimes is a lot, sitting in the
Because
same
it's
chair,
constantly
because
changing,
everything is evolving. You
Mhm.
know, time span went from a minute to 15 seconds.
real quick.
I probably need a minute to get my idea
And
out,
if
you know?
we as
I'm
adults,
gonna hang my hand, need
Yeah.
10 seconds.
and if we as adults need to get it together and have a moment, a child that's trying to become emotionally intelligent should be given that same time.
Correct,
Like, because we didn't get here knowing anything. We
exactly,
actually got here the wrong way.
yeah.
So if we're trying, like I always tell my kids, I can't, my 24-year-old, it's not about even telling you what to do anymore, it's guiding you.
Mhm.
Do I want you to go down a path with the balloons? I do, but if you're gonna pick the nails, I'm gonna be there to pick you up.
Yeah.
I don't care how many times, so I put that model in everybody kid I come in to encounter with, because everybody don't have the mom like my 17-year-old guy, and that has been proven with her friends and the thing, they call me mom, and I will be your safe house.
Yeah.
Because that's what I also got from my grandmother, of being the safe house, of the whole thing is being heard, healthy, and being happy. Them 3 things for children, whether you are 0 to forever.
And by the way, if you live within Community Board 12, I would encourage you to become a public member, because they're accepting it now.
I'm on 155th, so I'm on 155th in St. Nicholas. But
Does that
when
fall-
is,
that-
Yeah,
that's-
we
yeah.
just expanded.
because when is on 162nd between St. Nicholas and Broadway?
We'll debate the charter schools,
No,
because I'm a believer in charter schools should pay their rent, but that's another conversation. That's another conversation.
They have their own building.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I'm not saying when, I'm saying, charter schools in general should pay their own rent.
Yeah, they
That's
just.
my
moved
pers-
What happened? What did you say? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, no. I said, but we'll love each other, but we'll debate on the, no, she didn't say anything. I was like, we're gonna love each other, but we'll debate that charter schools should pay their own rent. That shouldn't come from the DOE.
Absolutely, we are the only place in America that
Yeah,
we pay charter school rent. And it's something that y'all don't understand. It's not even like the DOE can negotiate, Chair. Whatever the charter school says their rent is, that is what the Department of Education is obligated to be. So then what happens is that our public schools are losing money because we're paying charter school rent, and that ain't right.
that's a debate for another. I would love for you to come and be a.
Wherever my voice could be
I
heard.
understand what she's saying. I have my grandson is also nonverbal
Yeah.
and on the spectrum, and I fight every day.
Baby.
Special education is part of it, so I get that.
And him being the last one was, I didn't even understand that I've been, because I've always worked with autistic children. I just didn't know God was preparing me. So that's how that works, but I'm willing to sit wherever my voice, like I did, what did I do this year? School choice in January. I was there talking to the legislators about how important parents' choice is, whether, no matter what type of school, you should definitely have that choice of where your child goes to. But also speaking to them, because I'm very big on the post-pandemic effect of our children. And how we don't know, we can see this 10, 20 years from now, but it's also in our hands what we do with it. It's definitely in our hands as we sit on these boards and sit on these, in these advocacy groups of what our children is gonna do and what they're gonna be, because if we were affected, we know they were affected.
So I would just extend an invitation for anybody. The public members application opens up in January. I think the chair does it for a whole year.
Yeah.
And then the community board applications opens up in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, is it? Like
March.
the March, so just different ways, and maybe this room is not full, what I always say is that everybody will feel it though.
No.
We do the good job, everybody gonna feel that. Yeah.
So don't get me, and because you guys did it both ways, meaning it's still getting reached.
Yeah,
It's definitely being heard, and definitely, because spaces like this, whether it's hybrid or whether it's in person, is very important, because some people at this point don't wanna come out, not so much don't wanna come out, they have to, not say that like
you
that.
just gotta get that exemption, like
Yes.
Tanisha, you just be in the crib, like, tuning up and like, yo, I'm still count, I still count.
But still doing what Tanisha do, because I see her.
No, but that's the beauty of hybrid though.
That's what I'm
That is
saying.
the beauty of hybrid.
That is, but I thank you guys for even just sitting in this space, because it opens your eyes to, what people try to say what we don't do. And what our communities, if we're not together, and that's far from the truth.
Yeah, your voice is important, and we would love for everybody's voice to be part of the table. So I would encourage you all to participate. I know we're gonna have a high school. I'm gonna work with Noemi on that for next year, but we need to replace our high school public member
Okay.
and then another public member. So everybody's welcome to check. Do you want to share anything before we close it out?
No, okay, well, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jasmine. I live in the community, but I also work as a cheerleading coach in the community, and so I saw youth and education. I just wanted to come and
Okay.
see.
I can't see Jasmine.
Jasmine's all the way in the back, too.
I just wanted to come see what you guys talk about. I went to the health one earlier.
Okay.
Maybe last week, because I just feel like creating more additional programs that help get people moving is also something that I'm very honestly passionate about personally and professionally. So I just wanted to kind of see what you guys talk about, what type of organizations you guys talk about, and things like that, so.
All right. And what schools are you in?
I'm in, KIPP schools.
KIPP?
Obviously, we'll
Okay.
Talk about the charter.
But Kip has done, they have like, they go to nationals and all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my
yeah,
friends'
that's-
kids, oh, don't worry, we're not, like, this is what I'll always debate people on, we're not anti-charter
No,
school.
not at all.
We just wanna level out the equilibrium, you know what I'm saying? Like, Bloomberg came in here talking about Trump's agenda before Trump even became president, talking about abolish the DOE, you know?
Just for schools, but just community
Yeah.
wide programs, just in general.
So this is a great space for you because, like, for instance, we do have relationships with the district, and from what I've heard, I think KIPP is, there's one in 177 or something like that, and it's between Saint Nick and Audubon. Yeah, that. So I have friends who their daughter, they always fundraise for their kids to go to nationals and stuff. So at the end of the day, it's like more fidelity driven program. How do we expose our kids to that? So share stuff with us and we will share it on our newsletters. You know, you let us know and we be there. And again, there's a better way of advocating not only for your programming, but for the essence, the ethos of those programs, and is sit in the table and be like, yo, what y'all doing for movement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not even just for like our specific programs, I just mean in general, I feel like
Right, that's what
it's
I'm
something
saying.
that changed my life, and so if it's, we get basketball, we get baseball, but I feel like
Yeah.
dance and cheer and, like movement stuff just caters to others.
Completely agree.
Yes.
So just make sure you sign in, and we'll make sure to have you receive the information. And think about the public membership. It doesn't require too much. You do impact quorum, so you're gonna be hounded to come to meetings, but it gives you that taste before becoming a full member, which is either year, it's renovated it's renewed every year or every 2 years. So just before taking on a longer commitment.
And even with Win being one of the only orchestra styles.
Yeah, we had Win here a few years ago when they
Yeah.
were thinking of moving into the
181.
parking lot of
Mhm.
181st.
But they
So-
got the 160, and I've literally been here since Cotton River.
Yeah,
164, he was in kindergarten, he's now a seventh grader,
yeah.
and my two after, so even with him, he knows the violin. He knows how to read the music, my daughter percussion,
Again,
learn how to.
what better advocate than parents?
Oh,
So
yeah.
we welcome you.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we lean on Tanisha on a lot, cause when people be Tanisha be like, yo, homie, back in 1942, when y'all planted the seed, this is what happened.
Absolutely, Chair, absolutely.
But I appreciate you all. Is there any announcements, anything before I get the motion to?
Ooh, Chair, Chair, you
Yeah.
wanna tell them about the president?
President?
Getting the presidential.
The President Award?
Oh, is that, you've been getting so much things, Tanisha, that I really don't know. Homie's running for executive office. And then you got Biden flying in to give her an award. You know what I'm saying? You getting 2 awards? To get 2 awards. So
I'm getting the President Volunteer Service Award from Biden, because we wouldn't take it from Trump. I'm just saying. So we will have somebody on the community
But-
board that can say that.
you better take that before Trump gives you one too, you heard?
No, that's what I said. We can't take it from Trump.
Trump has Tanisha with his, yeah, she's good. I appreciate you all. Is there a motion? We don't have any further business.
Motion.
Hector, motions
Second.
by Noemi. Any oppositions, abstentions? I appreciate you all. We have our general meeting. Well, we have our executive meeting on Monday. We have general meeting on Tuesday. And then I think we have a party on Thursday, is it? It's like,
Between the 19th and the 20th.
Our
it's-
next general meeting,
it's gonna, the general meeting is next Tuesday. Yes, it's next
Yeah.
Tuesday. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, next Tuesday.
That's when we vote?
That's what I need to do. All right, let me
And then the executive is next Monday.
see. I had
The
it-
vote,
I had it in,
vote is next Tuesday, T.
Safari and not Chrome.
All right,
Let me go to.
we'll see.
Alright, and then the party might be the 19th or the 20th, the holiday party for the board. All right, everybody's welcome to come to the holiday party, so just make sure, in our listserv. And we call them Meet the Boards, where you could just mingle with other board members. There's 51 of us in total. And we just meet the community. I appreciate you all. Look forward to seeing y'all next month. Once with the executive committee, I will know if we met the threshold to host our meeting next month, Thursday or Tuesday. I'll make sure to send that via email before the calendar goes out. All right? Appreciate you. Have a good night, everybody. Congratulations,
Happy
Steve.
holidays.
Just make sure you get it from, oh, well, I was gonna say Sleepy. You get it from Biden before Trump gives you one.
That's why we doing in December. First time ever in Harlem. Because nobody's going in there next year, my man.
Oh, no, he's gonna give it to some barbers in the Bronx. All right, have a good night.